I'm Holly and it's time for my January TBR. Now, you're probably used to this being called Game of Books and having my Game of Books board, but for January I thought that I'd try something new. So the game is pretty much the same. I will go through all the new rules and stuff in a minute, but welcome to a novel TBR game. I thought it fit my channel better. Obviously I'm a novel curiosity and I wanted to do a TBR game that reflected that. So it looks very similar. It still has all the different colours and I will be doing 4 rolls a month. If I get any doubles, I will do an extra roll. I will land on a colour which refers to a certain genre, and then I will pick a prompt from a mug of prompts and fit a book into that genre and that prompt. Now, I have added a couple more things, so I will just do a little overview of the board now. So as you can see, there are all different colours and this is the key, so I will go through it. So yellow is fantasy, green is science fiction, red is historical fiction, pink is contemporary, orange is horror, thriller or mystery, blue is non-fiction or poetry, and then purple is classic. And then we have 3 special places, I don't know what you'd call them, places. So the first one is special and we did have this last year. These are the rainbow squares and they have very special non-genre specific prompts. So for example, it could be, I don't know, a book club pick, it could be a randomly generated number on my bookshelf. And then the 2 new additions to the board this year are reading goal and switch genres. So the first one is reading goal, and for example this one here, it is this shoddily drawn target, and these are spaces to help me complete my reading goals for 2021. And for example, some of them are like continue in a series, they are to read more classics, read more non-fiction. I have my 21 books I want to read in 2021 video, and I don't think that one's come out yet, but that will be coming out. So that one is to help me complete a goal, so to pick a book that would complete or just like work towards one of my reading goals. And then the second new position is switch genres, and I have a couple of them across the board, and the colours in this are purely symbolic, they're not actually linked to the genres. I just thought I'd do a couple colours to make it look nice. But this is basically a prompt which allows me to switch the genre of one of my roles. So this can be a role that I have already done, it can be a future role. So for example, let's say if the role before I had this green, so I had sci-fi and it was like author name A to M or something, then I could be like, actually I don't want to read a sci-fi that will fit that prompt, so instead I will read a fantasy or I will read a historical fiction or something. And like I said, the colours on here, it's not like I have to do a sci-fi to a fantasy. I could try and do that, that might be quite fun, but that's just more to look pretty on the board. But yeah, pretty much the same as normal. You go clockwise around the board. Oh, there is one extra thing, these 3 start positions. So usually I just throw a pom-pom onto the board, but this year I thought it might be fun to make sure that I am exploring the entire board to have some start positions. So each of the start positions looks somewhat like this. It has 2 dice on it and they are the number. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If say I'll roll a dice at the beginning, if I get a 1 or a 2, I'll start there. If I get a 5 or a 6, I'll start there. And if I get a 3 or a 4, I will start there. But I think that's everything. And of course it is now the novel TBR game rather than Game of Books. And yeah, it looks a little bit like a duck, but it's gonna have to do for the next year. I hope that you like the new board. So as you can see, there are a couple of additions. For example, we now have these reading goal spots, but the rules, they're pretty much the same. And first of all, let's have a look at what my TBR was last month. This was my December TBR. So we had Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty, which was my TBR jar pick. Then we had Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which was a classic that was a used book. We also had Hollowpox The Hunt from Oregon Crow by Jessica Townsend, which was a fantasy that was an anticipated read. Then we had Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, which was a contemporary graphic novel. And we also had 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, which was a poem with a beautiful cover. And I'm happy to say that I completed my TBR, so I don't have any punishment books going into 2021, which is fantastic. And if you want to know my thoughts on this, check out my wrap up, which should be coming in the next couple of weeks. So I guess that it's time for the first roll of 2021. Okay then, so like I said, this year we have to roll to find our start position. I'm just gonna roll the 1 dice. Let's have a little look. A 1, which means that we are starting there. That's great, I think, for the first month of the year to start on a 1. Okay, roll number 1. 9. Okay, so we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a fantasy, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a classic. Now, one of my goals is to read more classics, so it might be good to get a classic on the TBR right at the beginning. I think we're going to go with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So a classic, and the prompt for that is going to be to flip a coin. I don't think we've ever had that before. That's going to be a lot of fun. Roll number 1 was a classic and I had to flip a coin. So I have 2 options. The first one is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and the second one is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. This one I think is going to be heads because I think that's quite relevant, and then this one is going to be tails. Okay. I have my coin here. I'm really bad at flipping coins. Are you going to see it before I am? What is that? Heads! Which means that I will be reading Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. I think I will probably read both of those books, and I'm sure that most people are familiar with what this is about. This follows this girl called Alice who goes through this, like, is it a rabbit hole or something, that she falls through a rabbit hole and she enters Wonderland, which is this nonsensical, fantastical place. There's lots of things going on. I have watched a film adaptation of this, and I also really love A Blade So Black, which is a young adult contemporary fantasy retelling of Alice in Wonderland. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this. I do love a bit of nonsense, a bit of whimsy. This is the special Mina Lima edition, so it's completely illustrated, and there are these like interactive bits. So for example, this is a bit of Alice, and you can like move her legs out, you can move her arms out and stuff. And there's a lot of interactive elements throughout this. I don't know how much you're going to be able to see. It's quite hard to show, but I'm very, very excited to read that. That was one of my Christmas presents. It's very shiny. I love all the foil. I'm very excited to get to this one, and hopefully I love it. Roll number 2. Ooh. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is a historical fiction, and the prompt ooh, a cat pick, another fun pick. I think we had this like a year ago, so that'll be a lot of fun if I can get my cat to do it. Roll number 2 was a historical fiction, and that was a cat pick, which basically means that I put out 4 books, I put some cat treats on top, and whichever one my cat goes to first is the book that I pick. Now, my cat is quite a scaredy cat. He does not like to be forced into doing anything, so let me just put in a couple of clips of what happened when I tried to do this. He wasn't very cooperative. I did end up just leaving the books out all night, and when I got up in the morning he'd eaten the treats off 3, so that really wasn't any more helpful. So In my head, I'm thinking maybe he just wants me to pick whatever one that I want to read. So I'll just quickly run through the ones that I had. So I had Sister Noon by Karen Joy Fowler. I had The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. And Lovely War by Julie Berry. And Lovely War is the one that I'm picking. I believe that this one is set in the First and the Second World War, and it's following, is it Aphrodite, who is on trial because she's had some affair, is it, with Ares? I don't know, it's Greek myth, I don't know too much about Greek myth, and it's looking at tales of love throughout the world wars. I don't really know. Gods, love, world war. I do quite like a historical fiction set during wartime. I've heard some fantastic things about this book. I think the whole Greek myth spin is also going to be incredibly interesting. It's beautiful also. I love this like pink cover. It's very stunning. So hopefully I really enjoy this one. Roll number 3. Ooh, a double. We don't tend to have many doubles, which is quite shocking, but that is 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a contemporary, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A switch. I don't think I want to switch any genres. I think I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far. So I guess that we're going to have a contemporary. And the prompt is going to be, let's get one. What about that one that flew out of the cup? Whoa, okay. Over 500 pages. That might be quite difficult because contemporaries tend to be pretty short, but I'm sure that I can find something. Roll number 3 was a contemporary, which is over 500 pages, and this was like going on a wild goose chase because I could not, for the life of me, find a contemporary that I wanted to read that was over 500 pages. I searched all the ones that I own. I have this whole online document about all the ones that are on my radar, so the ones that I don't own, and none of them were over 500 pages. So the closest that I could get to was the Miseducation of Cameron Post. This is, I don't know if it's a romance or a coming of age or something, but it's following this girl who is a lesbian, and her parents have sent her to this conversion camp to try and force her to be straight. I don't know too much about this. This has been one that I have seen around for quite a number of years. I think there was a film adaptation made of it, but this is one that I have been interested in picking up. It is 470 pages, which isn't great considering some of the other books on my TBR this month that are also quite chunky, but I'm hoping that because it's a contemporary, I will be able to get through it very quickly. I don't really have any expectations for this. I'm hoping that I enjoy it, of course. I wouldn't pick up books that I think I'm not going to enjoy, but I don't know if it's going to be my kind of thing. Contemporaries, I'm very selective about the ones that I end up loving. So I don't know. I'll try it. It could be fantastic. It could just be an okay read for me, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I do actually really enjoy that one. Roll number 4. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that is a horror, thriller or mystery. We've got a lot of different genres this month, which is great. And the prompt. Let's go for this one. Oh, under 300 pages, so a short horror, thriller or mystery. Interesting. At the complete other end of the spectrum, the next roll was a horror, thriller or mystery that was under 300 pages. It would have been nice to have had this under 300 pages thing for the contemporary because there are a lot of really short contemporaries out there. But the book that I have picked is Rise of the Jumbies by Tracy Baptiste. So I read The Jumbies, which was the first book in this series. Was it in November? I think I read it for Believathon, which is a middle grade readathon hosted by Gavin at How to Train Your Gavin. And I didn't love The Jumbies. I think I rated it about, was it a 3 or a 3.5? So it was still a good read, but it wasn't a fantastic read for me. I loved the whole Caribbean folklore elements, and I quite liked the friendship group that you have in there. But for some reason, I just didn't really connect with the story. Hopefully I like that one a little bit more than the first one. But if it is still another 3 stars, I'm glad to have continued in a series. That is one of my reading goals for 2021, to be continuing and completing series. So yeah, I might enjoy it, I might not. And the basic premise of this is that you're following this girl in the Caribbean, on like a Caribbean island, and she ends up having this run-in with this Jumbie, which is this like evil spirit. I think it's part of Caribbean folklore, and there are a number of different types of Jumbies, and you've got our main character trying to save the island from all these monsters who are trying to take over. That's the basic premise. I don't really know what this second book is going to be about. I have a theory, but I don't really want to say it because that will spoil the first book. Hopefully I really enjoy this one. I might not love it, but I've got my hopes up that I could really enjoy this one. And then for our first extra roll, we have an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a contemporary or a fantasy, and I think that we're going to have to go with a fantasy because we haven't had one yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the final roll is a fantasy, and the prompt, let's have this one. Green on the cover. Then my final roll, my extra roll in January, was a fantasy with green on the cover, and for this I have picked The Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. This is the third book in the Life Ship Traders series, which is the second series in her expansive Elderling world. Now, the Life Ship Traders series follows this Vestrit trader family. You're following one of the Vestrit family who expected to inherit the ship when her father died, and it's not really a spoiler, but her father ends up dying and the ship ends up going to someone that she really didn't expect it to go to. She's very upset, and that kind of puts her on this journey, this trajectory that she never anticipated. And you're also following a pirate who wants to be a pirate king. There are a lot of different perspectives in this one, and I have only read the first book. This one on my TBR is the third book because I'm hoping to read the second book in like the last week of December. So I'm filming this on like the 27th or something of December, and I'm hoping that I can finish The Mad Ship before the end of the month, or maybe at the beginning of Jan, and then I can continue with the series. I loved Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy. The second and third book in that trilogy I gave 5 stars to. I absolutely adored them, and I think that I could also adore this series as well. Okay then, so those were all my rolls for a novel TBR game, but I do have a couple of other books that I would really like to get to. The first one is The Beast Player by Nahoko Uehashi, and this is a young adult fantasy following this girl who, I believe that her mother looks after the royal beasts or something, but then they die in her care and her mother is sentenced to death. So our main character has to go on the run, and I believe that there are these like magical creatures, these magical animals, and she has some kind of bond with them, she can communicate with them or something like that. I know that Becca from Becca in the Books really enjoyed this book. She gave it 5 stars, which is why I picked it up. A lot of her reading tastes I feel like align very closely to mine. I do tend to love magical beasts and magical creatures and stuff like that, so I think that I could really enjoy this one. My expectations are a bit mixed, like it could just be completely not my thing. I know that young adult fantasy for me is not my favourite at the moment. Maybe this one will restore my faith in young adult fantasy and I will end up really enjoying this one. And then another book that I would like to start in January is Les Mis by Victor Hugo. So actually I have already started this, but this is going to be a 6-month project for me. I want to be reading more classics in 2021. This is one of the classics that I would like to get to, but it's very big. The writing is very small, so I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I have like tabbed like 200-page increments, and I'm hoping to read 200 pages a month, finish it in June, and then I can tick it off the list of classics that I would love to get to in my life. I am already 64 pages in, but that took me about 2 to 3 hours to read, so it's gonna still take me about the time that I would spend reading a normal 300 to 400 page book each month, rather than just like a 200-page book, because the writing is so small. I'm hoping I can get the first 200 pages. Let's see what chapter it is. If you would like to read Les Mis, like maybe it's a book that's been on your TBR, maybe you would like to get to it too. So it's chapter 3, that must be in like a book. So it's book 7, chapter 3, A Storm in the Mind. That is where I'm trying to read up to, but maybe you could read along if you have been a bit intimidated by Les Mis. Maybe you would like to read 200 pages as well, or however many pages it is in your copy. I'm hoping that I love this one. I do love the musical, so I know that I love the story. It's just very intimidating, but hopefully putting it into more manageable chunks will make it a much easier reading process for me. And that is my TBR. I have a lot of books to get through, and yeah, that's the video. I hope that you've enjoyed. What are you hoping to read in January? And to everyone out there, stay curious. Bye!